The date is February 21st, 2016, and Monstrata has just ranked his map of Road of Resistance, a map that would soon become infamous in the community because of its insane potential PP. Within a day of it becoming ranked, Rafis FC'd the map Nomad, giving him 612 PP, which was the second highest Nomad PP at the time. This led many to believe that this map would be FC'd many times over in the next couple of months. The map was made by Monstrata, who at the time was putting out lots of really easy farm maps, which led to the phrase, "Thanks Mr. Monstrata," and a general dislike towards him and his maps because they essentially gave free PP. Road of Resistance split the community in two on whether or not the map was simply a basic farm map which handed out free PP, or a map that was able to give lots of it because of its hard jumps and streams. This question seemed to be answered by absolute silence. Rafis was the only person to FC Road of Resistance in 2016, but there was one other notable person who got a score on the map that year. On March 2nd, 2016, only a week after Rafis' FC, Kokizi made a couple of attempts on Road of Resistance. And oh boy were those some attempts. He had a PP record choke, not by missing on the hard stream or even the consistently spaced streams after it, but instead by slider breaking during one of the easiest parts of the map. It was tragic, but it also made it clear that it was a doable play for him, and only him. It's hard to describe just how dominant Kokizi was with Hard Rock in 2016, but his 650 PP play with Hard Rock being the only pass with the mod for 2 years says a lot about how little competition there was for him. It's a year later, and Rafis' FC is still the only one on the map, but Idke changed that on April 2017 when he FC'd the map with an astonishing 99.77% accuracy, giving him 633 PP. Idke had already proven that he was proficient on stream maps, but being the second FC with such good accuracy was still impressive. And just a few months later, he would begin one of the most legendary grinds in Osu history. Idke began trying to FC Road of Resistance with Hard Rock. Idke has always been known for his impressive streaming abilities, especially with Hard Rock, and so after he FC'd Road of Resistance with Nomad, it seemed like the next logical step was for him to go for a Hard Rock play. And in October of 2017, he got his first pass on the map. He managed to FC the hardest part, which is an incredibly spaced stream, just like Kokizi had. He matched Kokizi's miscount but with a much lower combo. This netted him only 422 PP, which is much less than his Nomad score, and certainly wasn't anywhere near the PP record, which was 817 at the time. He definitely had the ability to get a good score on the map. The only problem was, he kept missing on the easier parts before the chorus. But at the end of October, Idke finally had a run that seemed like it was close to what he needed. During the play, he had FC'd up to the stream, and then, after hitting most of it, failed. It was tragic, because he'd FC'd the stream on multiple occasions, but the one time he got there with a legendary combo, a combo higher than Kokizi, a combo that would have been at least 700, even with 7 or 8 misses. He didn't just miss a few times, but instead failed. He had proven that he could get a higher combo than Kokizi did on his run. Now, he just needed to execute it. But, for the rest of 2017, he didn't play the map an insane amount like he had before. He put in a fair amount of attempts here and there, but most of them went nowhere. And, throughout 2018, it seemed not much had changed. But, in September, he started on the grind again. At this point, he had hundreds of attempts on the map, with not much to show for it PP-wise. But then, finally, on September 20th of 2018, he achieved a 645 PP play with Hard Rock. The score had a much higher combo than Kokizi's, but because of the high miscount, it was worth slightly less than his play. But the play was still worth more than his Nomad FC. At this point, the support for Idke was crazy. Pretty much everyone at this point had shifted from the position that Road of Resistance was an easy farm map, especially with Hard Rock. And, on September 21st, almost 3 years after the initial ranking of the map, and just 1 day after his 645 PP play, Idke had some insane runs. Idke grinded for the score for almost a year, and with over 600 plays on the map, it seemed like he was finally closing in on the play he needed. He made both an 862 PP play and a 1 miss choke that would have been just shy of 1000 PP if it was an FC. He only missed on the jumps while seeing both the diff spike stream and the hard section after it. The hype before this point was already real, but after he got so close multiple times it seemed to boil over. The insane level of hype spawned the meme, Idke can FC Road of Resistance with Hard Rock. But also the opposite meme, Idke can't FC Road of Resistance with Hard Rock. Both of these plays were so close to an FC that it seemed inevitable, but time would show that it wasn't. Idke would continue to grind Road of Resistance with Hard Rock over the next few months, but wouldn't get the score. Both him and Beast Troll had good runs in May of 2019, but neither of them were able to pull off the score, with Beast 1 missing on the jumps and Idke choking on the stream after the diff spike. A score that had seemed right around the corner for almost a year was still at large, and it was starting to seem like it might be ages before it would finally be set, with both Beast and Idke not playing the map very often, especially towards the end of 2019. And this is where the hype about the map crossed with somebody who themselves was generating a huge amount of hype. On September 22nd, the German player Whitecat was unbanned. He wasn't all too well known, and certainly wasn't somebody who was in the discussion for who the best player in the world was. Which is why the community was so shocked that on the day of his unban, he sniped Vaxe's score on Union for 935 PP, which was a score which most other DT players had been struggling to get close to for months. People were starting to think that Whitecat was a contender for one of the best DT players in the world, at least aim-wise. But he was seen as only having great aim with not much else going for him by much of the community. There were already signs that this wasn't really the case, like his RUXXXX with Hidden Hard Rock, but he needed a more monumental, community-rattling play to really cement his place as not just a DT or aim one trick, but as a player who could play pretty much anything with any mod. And I think he used Road of Resistance as his way of shocking people into realizing that he could FC things that even the best Hard Rock players couldn't. He began by FCing it with Hidden, which got him the #1 spot on the map. Most people expected him to stop there with a solid play, one that certainly wasn't ignored, but also wasn't mind-blowing. This clearly wasn't what he had planned though, as on Sunday, January 19th, 2020, he played the map for only 30 minutes, and then he did it.
Holy fuck.
He ended a crazy saga, and the community hype was clear by the amount of attention this play got both on Reddit and by other top players, with it still being his most upvoted play over all of his 1Ks. Whitecat had proven that he wasn't just a DT one trick, and had conquered one of the game's most infamous maps ever. The story of Road of Resistance is one of both hope and the betrayal of it. Throughout Osu history, there have been many maps which became synonymous with one person: Freedom Dive and Kokizi, The Big Black and Uruchi, or United and Azer. These maps and players are connected by both an iconic grind and the score that came because of it. What sets Road of Resistance and Idke apart is that the score never happened for Idke. What made it infamous was the grind. Idke worked so hard for a score that seemed constantly out of reach. And with Whitecat becoming the first FC in a swarm of incredible scores throughout late 2019 and 2020, this score was finally set to rest, in one of the most legendary, yet oddly melancholy ways imaginable. It isn't fair, but in the end, Idke couldn't FC Road of Resistance with Hard Rock. This is just a little side note after the video. When looking at this play and how Whitecat pulled it off in a matter of minutes while Idke grind for tens of hours and never got it, it becomes clear that people comparing the two players is inevitable, which I would say isn't fair to either of them. It almost never makes sense to compare top players because everyone has different skill sets, and especially when you have two players as exceptional as Idke and Whitecat, you're almost always going to find that each player is the best out there at what they do, which is why it's such a frowned upon thing to do in the community. And I think this play works as the perfect example for why this is such a flawed mindset. The thing about this map is that Whitecat's skill set is great for it, because it doesn't have any death streams or any extremely stamina intensive sections, and it has an aim-based diff spike section, which gives it most of its difficulty. Nevertheless, this play is still insane and groundbreaking for both him and the game as a whole. The flow aim needed for the diff spike is so absurd that nobody before him could pull it off anywhere near as consistently as he could. The long stream after that, while not requiring a god level of stamina, still isn't anything to scoff at. And the control of nerves that Idke had so much trouble with all make this a stupidly impressive play. It's a play no DT1 trick could pull off, that's for sure. But I would also argue that this map doesn't fit Idke's skill set quite as snugly. Idke has always excelled at consistency and stamina, with good aim to top it off. Road of Resistance is much more a test of flow aim than it is of stamina. I think this also explains why his first 900 was on an 8.5 minute map with multiple less difficult parts instead of one insane diff spike. And both of these players are incredible at what they do. All of this goes to say that it's worthless and counterproductive trying to compare top players. It's much more productive to appreciate what they're good at and why that is, so maybe, just maybe, you can emulate their success and gain something tangible from it. Please just enjoy the game.